Good morning, everyone. In continuation to our previous topic where we were discussing Bayesian belief networks, right? So, in Bayesian belief networks, we need to predict certain probabilities of the variables which we have not observed, right? So, how do you deal with those unobserved variables, right? For that, there is an algorithm called as EM algorithm, expectation maximization algorithm. So friends, we will try to have a quick recap of what is a Bayesian belief network. Then we will go for EM algorithm. After that, we will see probabilistic approximately correct learning, PAC, right? So this is what we are going to discuss today, right? So EM algorithm, expectation maximization algorithm, which is used to predict probabilities of unobserved variables and applied in Bayesian belief networks, right? So after that, we will be discussing probably approximately correct learning, PAC learning, right? So if you look at the syllabus, let me show you the syllabus. Right. So please observe this. So we are here, Bayesian belief networks, in the third unit, the EM algorithm. So after that, we will see computational learning theory. Means under computational learning theory, we will be studying what is probably learning and approximately correct hypothesis, which is called as PAC learning, probably approximately correct hypothesis. So what is PAC and why we need computational learning theory, all those things we will discuss once we have a quick recap of Bayesian belief network, right? So I have shared my screen. So friends, just look at this one. What is a Bayesian belief network? We have discussed already, right? So let me discuss this again. I'll just try to draw a Bayesian network. Right. So if you remember, we have discussed an example in the last class. Right. A person was sneezing. A person was sneezing. Right. Now, what could be the reason for a person to sneeze? Right. Immediately, you may say, sir, if a person is sneezing, maybe he has got COVID, because these days COVID is the most common, what we say, virus that is affecting everyone. Of course, it's a pandemic and we have faced it, we have seen it. So you may think that COVID could be the reason, right? Now I may say, no, may not be COVID. Sneezing can also occur because of some viral infection. Of course, COVID is also a virus, but this is a normal viral infection, right? Seasonal virus, which we commonly face every time whenever there is a change in the weather. So seasonal viral infection. Seasonal viral infection. Right. Why seasonal viral infection will occur? What are the reasons? There could be a change in the weather. There could be a change in the weather. Right. Now, in order to seasonal viral infection, which is a very common case in our what we say in our day-to-day life, seasonal viral infection is very common, right? It need not occur only when there is a weather change. If there is no change in the weather also, there can be a there can be some cases where people say that I got infected with some viral infection, some fever, sneezing, cough, like that. So irrespective of change in weather, without any change in the weather also, viral infections are possible, right? Now ultimately if a person is sneezing, right, what I would like to know is, what is the probability or what is the likelihood that this fellow is sneezing because of COVID, or this fellow is sneezing because of viral infection? Which probability is more? Suppose if this fellow has got a viral infection, then what is the probability that the viral infection occurred because of change in the weather? So like that, if I want to study any probabilities, right, and cause and effect relationship, right, cause and effect relationship. So what could be the cause for sneezing? Either COVID or viral infection, right? In that case, what is the probability that a person is sneezing because of COVID? What is the probability that a person is sneezing because of normal viral infection? If it is a normal viral infection, then what is the probability that this viral infection occurred because of change in weather, right? So like that, if we study the probabilities and also if we try to study the cause and effect relationship between certain events, then we try to represent that cause and effect relationship using a network called as Bayesian belief network. Since internally it uses Bayes theorem, its name is Bayesian network. Why it is called as Bayesian belief network? Why it is word belief came? Because we believe, based on the probabilities, we believe that, okay, suppose the probability of person sneezing because of COVID is, let us say, 0.3, and the probability of person sneezing because of viral infection is, let us say, 0.4. Then I can say, okay, most likely the person is sneezing because of viral infection only, normal viral infection. So I'm believing something based on probabilities. That's the reason the name of the network is Bayesian belief network. Bayesian belief network. So every time, remember few important things. Always Bayesian belief network. In Bayesian belief networks, what you find, it's like a graph, and you find a directed edges. So they are not undirected, my dear friends. They are directed edges. So there is an arrow here. Right? Fine. So, and one more important point. So it is directed, and you don't find a cycle, because cycle is not possible, right? Cycle is not possible. Just imagine, today if I am sneezing, it doesn't mean that weather is going to change. Reverse is possible. There was a change in the weather, led to some viral infection, and because of that viral infection, I got sneezing. If I am sneezing, it doesn't mean that the weather is going to change. Am I correct? Right? I hope you understand this. If this is not possible, right? Is it possible? This one is possible. I'm sneezing. I'm sneezing. So the weather is going to change. Is it possible? Can you please respond? Is it possible? Since I am sneezing, weather is going to change. Is it correct? Will you accept that? No, right. So if I'm sneezing, it doesn't mean that the weather is going to change. It means that there is no question of a circle, right? A cycle will never form in Bayesian belief networks. That's the reason. That's the reason, right? And always there will be directed edges. So this Bayesian belief network will be always, it will be represented using a directed acyclic graph. So the diagram which you are seeing is a DAG, directed acyclic graph, DAG, directed acyclic graph, right? So now the problem in this Bayesian belief network is these probabilities we don't know, right? And one more important point I told you in the last class, in Bayesian belief network, right? In normal Bayes theorem, in Bayes optimal classifier, which we have studied for cancer detection and test classification, in that we assume that there is no conditional dependence. We assume that conditional independence is present everywhere, but conditional dependence can also be there. And if at all you are considering that there is conditional dependence, then Bayesian belief networks can be used to study conditional dependence. So what do you mean by conditional dependence? Right, conditional dependence means, for example, machine is a word, machine learning. We have discussed this conditional dependence also, but let me write it again. Machine learning is a good subject. Then machine learning uh, has great opportunities. Some statements. Again, machine learning is in 3-2. Now, friends, what do you notice every time whenever the word machine comes, immediately the chances of the next word to be learning are really high, right? Machine learning, because even though they are two separate words, but together they represent a subject name. So most often whenever I write machine, the immediate next word, to some extent, most probably it could be learning. So that's the reason there is a conditional dependence between these two words. This is called as conditional dependence. There is no rule like always after machine the word learning should come. There is no rule, sir. I am not saying that this is a rule, but that there is a probability that after machine the word learning can come. Even this is possible. Machine drawing is tough subject. So machine followed by something. So there is no rule like immediately after machine the word learning should come. It can be machine drawing also, but most of the time, most probably, wherever I see a word machine, probably I can expect learning as the next word. Right, friends? So that is called as conditional dependence. And if at all, if you want to study conditional dependence in some events that occur, then you try to represent that conditional dependency using Bayesian belief networks, right? Bayesian belief networks. Fine. So I hope you understood what is Bayesian belief network, and it is always represented like a DAG. Now the point is, if the weather changes, what is the chance that there could be a viral infection in the community or in the society? What is the percentage? I don't know, right? So when you don't know any probabilities, what you will do, you generally try to give equal importance. You will say if there is a weather change, viral infection may occur or may not occur, right? So what I'll do here, I'll try to assume this as 0.5, right? Now, if the person is sneezing, is it because of normal viral infection or is it because of COVID? How do I know what is the probabilities? I don't know. I really don't know. Right? Maybe I think today everywhere COVID pandemic is spread. So maybe if a person is sneezing, most likely he may be sneezing because of COVID. So let me go with some 0.8 and 0.2 for normal viral infection. So like that, what we will do is, friends, we will try to assume some initial probabilities. Randomly, we will pick the probabilities, and then we try to improve upon this. Then we try to improve and we try to identify the most accurate probabilities. So initially, randomly, you pick some probabilities, then you try to get or try to achieve or try to reach to the most accurate probabilities. So to reach to that most accurate probabilities, here, right, in this case, to reach to that most accurate probabilities, we use EM algorithm. EM algorithm stands for expectation maximization algorithm, right? So let me erase this. Fine. This EM algorithm is based on a concept. This EM algorithm is based on a concept called as maximum a posteriori hypothesis (MAP), which we have already studied in our previous classes, right? So you know what is HMAP. What we will do, we will calculate this one probability of H of D. H is the hypothesis for a given data. So P of H by D is equal to P of D by H into P of H, right? Try to recollect Bayes theorem. P of H by D is equal to P of D by H into P of H. So P of D by H into P of H divided by P of D, right? Since it is common in every hypothesis, the denominator we are removing, we are ignoring. So finally, what we are left with is P of D by H, P of D by H into P of H. So when I calculate this, I calculate this for all hypotheses, right? You know very well, we have a hypothesis set called as capital H. In that capital H, I have H1, H2, H3. For the same problem, I can have multiple hypotheses, multiple solutions, which I call it as H1, H2, H4, dot, 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 right? Now, what I'll do is, I will calculate this probability P of D by H into P of H. I'll do this for H1. So I calculate the probability for H1. I calculate the same probability P of D by H into P of H for H2, H3, H4, and so on. Now, if the hypothesis for which I am getting this P of D by H into P of H as the maximum value, that hypothesis is considered as HMAP. That hypothesis is considered as HMAP. This is not a new thing. We have studied it in our previous classes also, right? But why I am reiterating the importance of HMAP is we are going to use this HMAP in our EM algorithm, right? Expectation maximization algorithm. Expectation maximization algorithm is used to predict accurate probabilities for your Bayesian belief network, right? So friends, we will move on. We will go to this EM algorithm now, right? Expectation maximization. When to use? When data is only partially observable. Means I don't know. Suppose if someone says viral infection can occur if there is a change in the weather, right? But I have never seen uh, how much percentage of viral infection can occur when there is a change in the weather. I really don't know, right? And if someone is sneezing, it is because of viral infection. How can I say that it is because of viral infection? So even that I don't know, right, friends? So data is only partially observable, right? So which is called as unsupervised. If you remember in the beginning of machine learning, I told you what is supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning means where we know the class labels already. Unsupervised learning means we don't know the class labels. We don't know the class labels, right? We don't know the class labels. Data is only partially observable. So especially when you are dealing with probabilities, especially you don't know the likelihood of occurrence of an event. So in such cases, you use this expectation maximization algorithm. See the use cases, see here, where it can be used. Some uses of EM algorithm to train the Bayesian belief network for unsupervised clustering and learning hidden Markov models. Unsupervised learning or clustering means what? I gave you an example in the beginning. In supervised learning, we know the class labels. Like playing tennis example, if you take, I know that there are only two possible classes, either yes or no. But in some cases, I don't know the class labels. For example, I gave you an example. Suppose I bought a bag of vegetables and I want my son to categorize them. Now I don't know how many categories I will get, and even my son don't know how many categories he is going to get. So what he will do, he will put all those vegetables which were there in the bag, he will put them out, and what he will do, he will put all tomatoes at one side, he will put all potatoes at another side, right? Carrots in one place, right? And green vegetables at another place. Like that, he will try to form groups. But how many groups or categories he will get, we don't know. In this case, we don't know, right? So whereas in play tennis example, we know what is the output. Either he will go for playing tennis or he will not go for playing tennis. Means either a person can have cancer or he may not have cancer. But the point. So when we know the class labels in advanced, it is called as classification problem. When we don't know the class labels in advance, it is called as clustering problem, right? So this expectation maximization algorithm is useful in clustering problem also, right? So what is this EM algorithm? What is this EM algorithm? We will see, right? We'll try to understand this one. See, in EM algorithm, we have two steps, right? Please note these two steps. Of course, recording will be there. You are supposed to write these two steps in your exam also. So please make a note of this one, right? Or else if you are using phone or laptop, you can have a screenshot for this one, because it is you are going to write them in the exam. So EM algorithm as God can also be used repeatedly. Means it can be it will run in a loop, right? So what are the two steps involved in EM algorithm? Step 1, calculate the probabilities of unobserved variables assuming H. So friends, so what we have to do is, here we don't know what is the more accurate hypothesis. So here we really don't know this H. So we have to assume some hypothesis. We have to assume some hypothesis. And then what we have to do is, based on these hypotheses, we are supposed to calculate the new probabilities to maximize this E value, or to maximize this E of P of D by H. So what is this P of D by H? P of D by H is called as maximum likelihood. P of D by H is called as likelihood. In Bayes theorem we have studied, right? Likelihood. P of D by H is likelihood, and our intention here is to maximize it. So what I will do, I will take randomly the Bayesian belief network which I have shown you, that sneezing example, right? So if I have such types of variables which are which have got conditional dependence among them. So for such variables, what I'll do is I'll try to create a hypothesis which represents the relationship between those variables. So randomly I'll create a hypothesis. Then on that hypothesis, I will try to see what is the P of D by H value I am getting. Now what I will do is, I don't know whether that P of D by H is argmax or not. So what is argmax? You know very well. Just now we have seen that again, argmax, right? So if you have multiple hypotheses, you will try to calculate P of D by H into P of H. So P of D by H into H. This value we will calculate for all hypotheses. Suppose if I have three hypotheses, H1, H2, H3, I will see which one is giving maximum value for this particular product. So this is argmax. So now what I will do in expectation maximization algorithm is, first I will assume some hypothesis, right? As I mentioned in Bayesian belief networks, randomly throw some probabilities, and I'll try to find what is the maximum likelihood, what is the product of P of D by H into P of H for that particular hypothesis. Then what I will do, I'll make some changes in my parameters. Again, I will try to find one more hypothesis. I will check what is the product it is giving, P of D by H into H, right? If it is increasing or not. If it is increasing, again I'll make some changes in the parameters. Again, I will check whether this P of D by H into P of H, this product is increasing or not. So this process we need to continue, right, till we reach to a point where every time you are going to get the same P of D by H into P of H, means you reach to a certain threshold or a saturation point where there will not be any further increase. Further, it will not increase, right? So what I will do, I'll start with H1, some hypothesis which I will assume. I will calculate argmax for that H1. I will get some answer. Then I'll make some changes to H1. I'll change the parameters, right? Then I call that one as H2. Again, I will calculate argmax. I'll get some better value. Then I'll go for H3. I'll get a much more better value. Then I'll further change H3. I'll get H4, right? I got, let us say, further better value. After some point of time, I will repeatedly get the same answer, same value for this product. It means that I have reached the saturation. That particular hypothesis will tell me, okay, stop now and take these parameters for your probabilities, for your Bayesian belief network. So this process of estimating the probabilities using EM algorithm, right, it is called as application of expectation maximization algorithm, right, friends? So this is a small question probably you can expect in part A, right? But the next topic is very, very important. It is called as pack learning. So before we go to pack learning, let me show you the syllabus again, right? Because where is the syllabus? Yeah. If you observe here, friends, I'll increase the font. Yeah. So this Bayesian belief network and EM algorithm we have discussed in third unit. And next part of third unit is computational learning theory, right? The name itself says computational learning theory. So under computational learning theory, you have probably learning an approximately correct hypothesis, which is called as PAC. Then you have sample complexity for finite hypothesis space, right? Mistake bounded model of learning, followed by instance based learning. So these are the two topics which are available in second part of unit 3. So we will go to computational learning algorithm and we will see what is computational learning first of all. Then we will introduce you PAC, right? So friends, let me take an example so that you can clearly understand what is PAC and what is the purpose of PAC. Fine. Mm, Please observe this. Uh, this is fact. So friends, let us assume, please observe this carefully. Please observe carefully. So friends, just imagine like this is one variable mm, called as rank, and this variable, this is rank variable, and this is what we say, the intermediate marks. Intermediate. Right? Okay. So friends, left side, let us say y-axis represents intermediate marks, x-axis represent MSET rank. Now, based on x and y values, I would like to tell whether a student will get seat in what we say, in a particular college. Let us say whether a student will get seat in our college or not. So here all those plus symbols represent positive examples, means they will get the seat, and minus symbols which are in blue color will represent negative, minus symbols represent negative cases wherein a student may not get seat in our college, right? So here plus represents the positive examples and minus represents the negative examples. So the green color rectangle which you are seeing, the green color rectangle which you are seeing is the target space, right? So this is called as actual target space or target function, right, which will correctly, perfectly classify the positive and negative examples. But what is the problem in machine learning? Right from the beginning, we have only some training data. From the training data, we try to generate hypothesis, and most of the time these hypotheses are what we say, they are accurate, they are near to 70, 80, 90% accurate, like that, but we will never get 100% perfect solution when we generate our hypothesis from training data. This we know very well. So friends, suppose just imagine I have generated a hypothesis from training data, right? And my hypothesis is representing something like this, right? So this blue color rectangle which you are seeing is my hypothesis. is the hypothesis which I have generated. And you all know very well that whatever hypothesis we generate, definitely it will have some error. Now, what my hypothesis is doing, some of the positive examples which are positive, my hypothesis is considering them to be negative. See here, these three red positive symbols which are inside green, no, if you observe in my blue part, in my blue rectangle, I got only two positive examples. Means the remaining three which are actually positive, my hypothesis is not considering it. My hypothesis is considering them as negative. So this blue one represents the hypothesis which I have assumed or which I have generated, right? But C is the ideal hypothesis. C is the actual one which we want. So obviously there will be a difference between H and C. Obviously there will be a difference between H and C, right? They will not be identical. We know that. So what is happening in H? This hypothesis, for some of the positive examples, it is saying that they are negative, because if you observe, these three plus symbols are not in my blue box. So my H says that these three, even though they are positive, it will treat it as negative only. And three negative symbols which are there, three are negative, means they are examples where a student may not get seat in our college, but my hypothesis says that these three students will get seat in our college. So can you tell me, right? Can you tell me which area represents the error part? Which area represents the error part? Inside C also, I have inside both rectangles, there is a issue, right? There is a issue. So can we represent that error part? Can we represent that error part? So I hope you understood this diagram. I will try to draw it again in a simple manner. Something like this I have. If I try to draw it with ovals, oh my god. Assume that this is change the color. Assume that this is C. C is represented by an oval. This is C, and H is represented by another oval, right? H is represented by another oval. So friends, what do you observe in this one? The area which is common are covered by both C and H, that is what we say acceptable region, means my hypothesis is matching with target concept in this particular region. So friends, this portion is okay for me. This is true cases. Right, both H and C are overlapping, means expected answer, generated answer are same. That is what is overlapping means. Now this blue is my generated answer, green represent expected answer. Now if you observe the left side of this oval, right, what this region represents, can anybody tell what is this region represents? This one. This is our expected region, but we are not, our hypothesis is not covering it. Means these are actually positives, but my hypothesis saying that it is not covered by my hypothesis, so it will treat it as negatives. So they are actually positives. Means this region, my dear friends, this region, this entire region, right? So this region is false positive, false negatives. Means my hypothesis says that these are false negatives. Hypothesis says that these are negative, but they are not originally negative. So that region is false negative, and this entire region is false positive, right? Now, what do you mean by probably approximately correct learning? Means we want, we accept that there will be a difference between H and C. We know that, and what we want is we want this region to be very very less, right? So probability of this particular H XOR and C, this should be less than certain value, less than certain value, let me call it as epsilon, right? So the hypothesis is said to be, right, most accurate, or it can be said to be approximately correct hypothesis if this region, this is an XOR operation, my dear friends, between H and this region, is this region, and this region is represented by XOR operation between H and C. So P of H or H XOR C must be less than certain threshold value called as epsilon, and this concept of what we say, identifying a hypothesis which is giving you the best possible or the least value for H XOR C. When I apply XOR operation between my C and H, I should get the least possible value. Then I can say that particular hypothesis is probably approximately correct. Probably approximately correct. So this is the meaning of PAC, right? So in detail, again, we will continue in our next class, and we will see pack in detail. We have started what is a pack, and we complete pack in our next class. Then along with pack, we are going to see one more important concept called as VC dimension, right? VC dimension. So these two are very important concepts in computational learning theory, right, friends? So I hope things are clear to you. Please respond to me whether you have understood today's topic or not before we actually wind up. So please respond in the chat box. Right. Thank you. Thank you, friends. We'll meet in the next class.